For almost 30 years, it was more than just a cold case. It was a legend, a ghost story. But on this day, right here, the ghost story ended. A jail door slammed shut, and a murder mystery that has haunted us for decades, well, it just became the trial of the century.
All right, let's get right into it. The man you're seeing in cuffs, that's Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. Now, he calls himself the shot caller, but what's really important is this. He is the only person still alive from the car that pulled up right next to Tupac Shakur that night in Vegas. He is literally the last man standing, and he's about to stand trial for murder.
So you gotta be asking, how does the most famous murder in music history go completely unsolved for 3 decades? To really understand why he was arrested in 2023, we have to rewind the clock. We've got to go back to a time when hip-hop wasn't just topping the charts, it was at war. And here's the craziest part. The key to cracking this whole thing wide open, it came from the suspect himself. You see, Keefe D just could not keep his mouth shut. In books, in documentaries, in countless interviews, he just had to put himself at the center of it all. The mastermind, the only one who knew the real story. He literally talked himself right into a prison cell. Okay, so let's set the scene, the mid-90s. And you have to understand, this was never just some simple rap beef. No way. This was a proxy war. It was all about money, power, and turf, being fought on behalf of 2 massive music empires by 2 of America's most dangerous street gangs. The battle lines were drawn, and they were crystal clear. On the West Coast, you had Suge Knight's Death Row Records. They used the mob Peru Bloods for their security, for their muscle. And on the East Coast, you had Puffy Combs' Bad Boy Entertainment. When they were in LA, they allegedly hired the rival gang, the South Side Compton Crips, for protection. So when Tupac dropped a diss track on Biggie, it wasn't just lyrics, it was a straight-up challenge from one gang to the other. And on September 7th, 1996, Las Vegas became the pressure cooker. You had the Mike Tyson fight, which brought this entire world, all the music, all the money, all the gang politics, and crammed it into one single building, the MGM Grand. It was an absolute powder keg, just waiting for a spark. And here's that spark. After Tyson wins in like a minute and a half, someone in Tupac's crew spots a guy in the lobby, Orlando Anderson. He's a Southside Crip who had supposedly snatched a death row chain a few weeks before. Tupac, on top of the world, throws the first punch, and then the entire death row crew just swarms Anderson, beating him down right there on the casino floor. Security breaks it up, Anderson says he won't press charges, and he walks away. Free to go get his revenge. That beatdown in the lobby, that wasn't the end of the story. Oh no, that was the start. It was a declaration of war. And the payback was going to be fast, it was going to be brutal, and it was going to be very, very public. Here's exactly how the ambush went down.
It's 11:15 at night. Suge Knight is driving his black BMW, and Tupac's in the passenger seat. They're in this whole parade of cars, music blasting, heading to a party. And then they stop. A red light at the corner of Flamingo and Koval, surrounded by all the neon lights of the Vegas Strip.
And then it just appears. A white Cadillac, almost like a ghost, pulls up into the empty lane right next to them. Inside that car, 4 members of the Southside Compton Crips, including the guy from the lobby, Orlando Anderson, and his uncle, Keefe D, sitting right there in the front passenger seat. This is the moment, confessed by Keefe D himself, that sealed Tupac's fate. He says he had the gun, a .40 caliber Glock, up in the front seat with him, but he couldn't get a good angle. So he passed the gun into the back seat, right into the hands of his nephew, Orlando Anderson. 13 shots. The sound just tears through the Vegas night. The whole ambush is brutally efficient. It's over in seconds. The Cadillac makes a hard right and just vanishes into the darkness. 4 of those 13 bullets hit their target. Tupac was hit twice in the chest, once in the arm, and once in the thigh. They rushed him to the hospital. Doctors fought like hell to save him. They even had to remove his entire right lung. But 6 days later, on Friday, September 13th, Tupac Shakur was gone. And for the next 27 years, nothing. The case went ice cold. The code of silence on the streets was everything. But here's the unbelievable twist. The case wasn't cracked by some genius detective. It was cracked by the suspect himself, who simply could not stop talking. So it all started with this thing called a proffer agreement. Back in 2006, Keefe D was facing some serious federal drug charges, so he cut a deal. He told the investigators everything, that he was in the car, that he passed the gun, and that his nephew Orlando pulled the trigger. And since Orlando was already dead by then, Keefe D walked away thinking he had lifetime immunity. But here's the thing, he totally misunderstood the deal. Convinced he was untouchable, Keefe D went on a victory lap. He wrote a tell-all book, he starred in documentaries, he gave hours of interviews online telling his story over and over for fame and for money. What he didn't get was that every single word he spoke was creating a brand new trail of evidence that prosecutors could and absolutely would use against him. But Keefe D's confessions had another bomb hiding inside them. An allegation so huge, it takes this from a simple gang shooting to a sophisticated, high-level murder-for-hire plot, paid for by one of the biggest names in the history of music. So you have to ask yourself, was this really all about getting revenge for a beatdown in a casino lobby? Or was that just the perfect excuse to carry out a much bigger, much more profitable mission? These are the exact words Keefe D claims Sean Diddy Combs said to him. He says that they met at Greenblatt's Deli in LA, and Combs, terrified of Suge Knight and Death Row, put out a direct order, a hit on both Tupac and Suge. And this was the alleged price. $1 million for 2 lives. Now, Diddy has always denied this, called it completely made up, but now, with his own empire under intense federal investigation, this 30-year-old story has suddenly taken on a terrifying new weight. And all of that brings us right back to today and the trial that's set for February 2026. The stage is set for a showdown that's not going to hinge on DNA or fingerprints, but on the words of one single man. The entire trial is going to come down to this one simple question. The prosecution will say he's a killer who couldn't help but brag about his crime to the entire world. And the defense will say he's a liar who made up a bunch of tall tales just to sell books and get famous. Killer or liar? A jury is going to have to make that call. And this really shows you the huge problem for the prosecutors. There's almost no physical evidence left. The BMW that Tupac was shot in, it's been cleaned up, restored, and it's now some collector's item with a $1.75 million price tag. And the white Cadillac, the actual crime scene on wheels, it's just gone, vanished without a trace. All they really have are Keefe D's words. So what does it all mean? Is this, after all this time, finally justice for Tupac Shakur? Or is putting this aging gangster on trial just the last sad chapter in a tragedy that's haunted a generation? A jury will decide very soon, and believe me, we will be covering every single moment. Make sure you follow along to see how this story finally ends.